Welcome back, everyone, to Bookish Dives.
It's good to be back.
For those of you who might be just joining us for the first time, the whole idea of the show is pretty simple.
You bring us the source materials.
Exactly. They can be foundational, super complex, whatever. And our job is to give you the fastest and clearest route to the core information.
We're here to help you shortcut the reading list, basically.
And today, wow, we are getting into a text that, even though it's ancient, might be one of the most important instruction manuals ever written on how to live well.
It really is. The source for today is Aristotle's massive work, the Nicomachean Ethics.
That's right. But before we even think about opening it, we're going to do something crucial. We're going to analyze the packaging.
Which is so important for a text like this. We're looking specifically at the second edition, which has been translated, introduced, and annotated by the classical scholar Terence Irwin.
That name is going to be important.
Oh, incredibly important. With philosophy this old, the person who prepares the text for you is almost as important as the person who wrote it.
Okay, so let's unpack that right away. Just looking at the cover, you're hit with the sheer weight of the author's name, Aristotle. What does that alone signal to someone picking this up?
It signals, right away it signals intellectual rigor. Aristotle wasn't just some guy with ideas, he was a systematizer.
What do you mean by that?
He essentially built the formal frameworks for everything from logic to biology.
Yeah.
So when you see his name, you know you're not getting stray thoughts. You're getting a comprehensive, organized system.
So his name alone is like a stamp of intellectual bedrock. This isn't just an opinion piece. It's a structured philosophical investigation.
Absolutely. And the title tells you exactly what he's investigating, the Nicomachean Ethics.
The word ethics, right there in the title.
Which positions this book as really the cornerstone of what we now call virtue ethics. The whole focus is on the character of the person.
So it's not asking what's the right thing to do in this one situation.
No, not really. It's asking a much bigger question. What kind of person should I be? It's about cultivating a certain kind of character.
So just from the cover, Aristotle's Ethics, the topic is nothing less than how to live a good life. You're about to engage with questions that are just fundamentally human.
And that's its relevance, right? If you're picking up this book, you are, on some level, asking, how should I live? And Aristotle is promising a rational answer to that, an answer aimed at what he calls eudaimonia.
A term we'll definitely come back to. What's so amazing to me is that this is still used as a guide today, but that leads to the big challenge, the gap in time, which brings us to the translator. Why does it matter so much that this specific edition is by Terence Irwin?
Because for ancient Greek, the translator is essentially the philosophical gatekeeper. It is never, ever a simple word-for-word process.
It can't be.
No, it's interpretation. Key terms, the words the entire argument hinges on, like that word eudaimonia we just mentioned, or RIT. They just don't have perfect, clean English equivalents. The translator has to make a choice.
And that choice shapes everything for the reader.
It does. And Irwin doesn't just translate. The cover lists all this added value. Translated, with introduction, notes, and glossary. For a beginner, this is crucial.
So let's talk about that. The notes, for instance. How do they help?
Well, think about it. Aristotle will just casually refer to a Greek custom or a play or a political event that every one of his students would have known.
But that we would have zero context for.
Exactly. It would be completely opaque.
Yeah.
The notes bridge that 2,000-year gap instantly. Without them, you'd have to stop every page to do your own, very difficult historical research. It would completely derail the flow.
So it's like having a classics professor sitting next to you whispering the context in your ear. What about the glossary? That seems really important for keeping terms straight.
It's vital. Absolutely vital. The glossary makes sure that when Aristotle uses a technical term like, say, phronesis, which is practical wisdom, Irwin's translation for it stays consistent every single time it shows up across all 10 books of the Ethics. It prevents this kind of semantic drift that could totally undermine the argument. Aristotle is precise, so the translation has to be precise.
And what about that little detail that this is the second edition? That feels like a minor academic point, but what does it actually tell the reader?
It tells you it's been battle-tested. It signifies authority. It means the first edition was used in classrooms, reviewed by other scholars, critiqued.
So Irwin got feedback.
Tons of it. A second edition means he went back, maybe tweaked a translation here or there, clarified some notes where students were getting confused, maybe even incorporated new scholarship.
So it's like the intellectual community has pressure tested this version. It's telling you, the learner, that you're starting with the best, most refined tools available for the job.
Precisely. The packaging guarantees quality. So now I think we have to actually, turn the page.
Let's do it. We mentioned that core goal earlier, eudaimonia. This is one of those words that Irwin and other scholars had to really fight to translate correctly. Most people just say happiness.
Right, which is a real problem.
But this edition pushes for flourishing. What is the philosophical difference there, and why is it so important?
This might be the single biggest takeaway from the entire book. Modern happiness is, it's mostly subjective. It's about feeling good, pleasure, contentment.
A feeling that can come and go.
Exactly. It's fleeting. Aristotle's eudaimonia is completely different. It's an objective state of being.
How so? It's not a feeling.
It's not a feeling. It's an activity. That's the key. An activity of the soul in accordance with complete excellence over a complete life. It's about achieving your absolute highest potential as a human being.
So wait, if I just spent my life chasing pleasure and I told Aristotle I felt really happy, he wouldn't be impressed.
Not at all. He'd say you missed the point entirely. It's not about your emotional state. It's about your objective performance, your function.
Okay, function. Tell me more about that.
Think of a knife. A knife is good not because it feels good, but because it does its job cutting excellently. Humans, Aristotle argues, also have a unique function.
Which is?
Reason. Our ability to think rationally is what separates us from plants and animals. Therefore, a good human life eudaimonia is achieved by living according to reason, constantly practicing and developing that excellence. Flourishing captures that active, skilled state. Happiness just sounds passive.
Wow. Okay, that totally reframes the entire purpose of the book. It's not a guide to feeling good. It's a rigorous training program for self-development.
It is. And that leads us right to the core of his argument for how to do that, what he calls the function argument.
How does he structure that? How does he land on reason as our function?
He uses a really clean method of elimination. He asks, what is unique to us? He throws out the life of simple pleasure and nutrition.
Because plants and animals do that.
Right. Then he dismisses the life of honor, like being a politician. Because honor depends on what other people think of you. It's not internal to you.
He's stripping away everything that isn't uniquely and truly ours.
Precisely. And what's left is our capacity for rational activity. So the function of a human is an activity of the soul in accord with reason. To flourish is to do that and do it well.
Which brings us to another one of those key translated words, our verte. If our function is to reason well, then our fate, which is usually translated as virtue, must be the excellence we need to do it.
That's it. And translating it as excellence or virtue is so important because Aristotle doesn't see it as some moral rule sent down from heaven.
What is it then?
It's a skill, a learned, cultivated disposition, like a musician mastering their instrument. Virtue, for Aristotle, is about achieving mastery over your own soul, your character.
So if I want to flourish to achieve eudaimonia, I need to practice being excellent at reasoning and acting, just like a guitarist practices scales.
That is the perfect analogy. He says we become just by doing just acts. We become temperate by doing temperate acts. It's all about habit. You build a stable character through consistent practice.
And that practice is always aimed at something he calls the mean.
Ah, yes. The famous golden mean.
Can you give us a quick practical example of how that works?
Of course. Take the virtue of courage. It's the mean or the appropriate balance point between two vices, two extremes.
Okay, what are they?
The deficiency, the lack of the feeling, is cowardice. The excess, having too much of it, is rashness or recklessness. Courage is finding that sweet spot in the middle, acting in the right way for the right reason in any given situation. It's a dynamic, rational center, not just a simple average.
What's so powerful about that is how practical it is. The ethics doesn't just preach a set of rules, it gives you a rational method for improving yourself.
It does.
And this brings us right back around to why this Terence Irwin edition is such an effective tool.
The synthesis is pretty clear, I think. The book itself is the defining work on virtue ethics, laying out this quest for flourishing or eudaimonia through rational excellence or rut.
And the preparation of the book, Irwin's translation, his notes, the glossary in this second edition, it all acts like a philosophical scaffold. It lets you, the reader, actually grasp these really demanding concepts like the function argument without getting bogged down.
Right. You get to spend your mental energy grappling with the actual philosophy, with the definition of a good life, instead of struggling with an awkward translation or some obscure historical reference. The quality of the packaging just makes the whole journey smoother.
It confirms that your challenge is supposed to be the depth of Aristotle's thought, not the difficulty of the text itself.
And this, I think, raises a really important question for anyone who reads ancient philosophy.
What's that?
When you're reading a text that's designed to teach you how to live, should you prioritize trying to get to the author's raw, unfiltered original intent? Or is it better to accept the clarity and the context that a meticulous modern scholar like Irwin provides?
That's a great question. That tension is probably where the real learning happens. We have to rely on the translator to unlock the past for us.
We do.
But we also have to recognize that their choices, like saying eudaimonia is flourishing instead of happiness, fundamentally shape how we understand virtue itself.
So here's the final thought. If the path to understanding virtue is through this ancient text, does the very act of translating and annotating it fundamentally change the knowledge? Does it put a modern layer on it? Or does it just unlock it for a new generation?
That's the idea we'll leave you with. Is the Nicomachean ethics a historical artifact we're trying to preserve? Or is it a living, constantly updated manual for how to flourish?
A question that invites the kind of continuous rational thought that Aristotle himself would have really admired.
Thank you so much for joining us for this look into Aristotle's most influential work. We hope this exploration, starting all the way back with the details on the cover, shows how even the smallest parts of a source can reveal a huge amount of information.
Join us next time on Bookish Dives as we get into more complex books and materials and continue to help you master dense information fast.
Until then, keep digging.